1945 was Gaumy Neal's last year as the coach of the Tigers, and the school, the nation, and the sport of football needed time to adjust to the bizarre developments of the 1950s, more television, rock and roll, and new publicity for those strange men who played football for money. Rough seasons lay ahead for the Tigers as they searched for identity in the melee of modernization. There was a voice in the wilderness. Coach Mike Snavely led his 51 team to a 7-1 season, the best doing since 1933. But it was not until the end of the decade that the man emerged who would lead the Tigers ever forward. He was a Hall of Fame quarterback for the University of Maryland, who went on to play and coach for the Washington Redskins. After his professional career, he returned to his alma mater to coach the Terrapins, but there were higher powers to answer to, so in 1959, Coach Tommy Mont came to DePauw.
Just want to ask you, have you been back to Indiana?
Congressman, I've been to the great state of Indiana, and I found the people there to be very receptive, particularly down in Greencastle, and I'm looking forward very much to spending many enjoyable years in the state of Indiana. And
fellas playing on the team gave everything they had, and so it wasn't any different as far as coaching and the players and the strategies and things like this, but it was a little different setting.
If you have all those ministers out there, I'm sure that we go up against Butler and Wabash in those schools. We're going to need a lot of praying, so I look forward to that.
To be a good coach, Mont knew, he had to satisfy the basic needs of a group of heroes: food, shelter, companionship, and a goal. The food was the easy part. He had all the meat and potato football basics his team needed.
We decided when we came out there that our players were going to be, in fundamental football, they were going to be well-versed. And I think they were. And I think it showed up, particularly in the Wabash games, that when we played schools of comparable size and comparable talent, I think our fundamentals paid off.
4 words: pay attention to detail. That's the one thing I remember about him. It took me 4 years to figure out what he was coming at or what he was doing, but as a coach, from his perspective, if a play doesn't work correctly, it's because somebody didn't do what they were supposed to do. You need 11 guys to do exactly the same thing each time, and if you do that, then plays work, teams work, you win games.
Next, Mont looked for the proper companion for the team. It had to be someone better than a sidekick, someone with a love for the game, someone with all the energy, encouragement, and admiration heroes needed. What better companion for the Tigers than the Catman, assistant coach and defense man Ted Cotula.
He was always in control, and he never yelled and screamed. That's why he hired me. He needs someone to yell and scream. I did all the yelling and screaming.
They were like frickin' Frack or Mutt and Jeff, if you will. Yeah, totally different personalities that worked.
I can hear him on the sideline saying, "Coach Mont, throw the bomb. Coach Mont, throw the bomb." We were running a wishbone offense. He would be so excited. I think he really loved what he did, and he always had time to talk to the boys.
Now that they had food and companionship, they needed shelter. As the cold wind of competition sapped their spirits, a savior arrived on a Greyhound bus with all the shelter a team could need.
Dick Dean from Washington, D.C., one of the first black players we had at DePauw, and he could have played any place in the country.
Richard was about 6'2", 225, and my goodness, he could have started at any position on the field. He could have started at quarterback or tight end or offensive tackle. He made it with the St. Louis Cardinals when he left DePauw University, first team, little All-American college division, by the way.
Richard and I had a little thing where if I tapped him on the fanny, he knew that whatever play we called was off, and we'd just run a quarterback sneak. So, gee, there was this big hole, and I gave Richard a little shot on the bottom, and there we went up the middle. And I still remember the look on the face of the defensive halfback as Richard was bearing down on him. This guy probably was 5'6", 130 pounds soaking wet, and I remember his eyes opening up the size of saucers and then just going down like a bucket of tomatoes.
And he used to imitate me. And before every Sunday night meeting, Dick would get in, and I'd hear him down the hall. We'd be sitting down there. We'd be laughing just as hard as the players were, but he'd be up and he'd be imitating me. But Dick was another fine football player.
The last thing Coach Mont needed, he didn't have to find. Because when the clock began ticking and the ball took flight, he saw the goal in the eyes of every one of his heroes, to never quit. He would continue to see this determination throughout his 18-year coaching career in men like Bart Simpson, who in 1973 set the all-time season record for rushing at DePauw.
Bart Simpson, one of the great running backs, the first 1,000-yard rusher in the history of DePauw University, was a great player.
Bart came down to visit DePauw, and was a highly recruited and touted athlete out of Proviso. I think it was somewhere in the Chicago suburbs. And his mother and father were with him. And the thing that sold his mother was the beautiful trees out around the tennis court. And so that's how we got Bart Simpson, because his mom liked those trees. And I told her they stay in bloom all year round, you know.
At that time, Coach Mont liked to run his unbalanced line and his 96 block down, which we had 2 tackles, you know, and a running back kicking out on a tackle and a tight end, so Bart could run off tackle. And he'd just tuck that ball under his arms and lower his shoulders, and he was a north to south runner. He really ran hard.
I carried the ball a couple of times, and we're playing on one of those baseball fields. You know, you get tackled and dust comes in your nose and your face. And those guys, oh, they were bad. They would tackle you and they start talking. And they were calling you names and everything, and I did not like that at all. And then that motivated me. And then what happened is, I guess I remember I started hitting back. They hit me, and when they come up to try and tackle me, I give them a forearm. And it started to work. We started to move the ball, and we won. I remember calling my dad that we won the game, and I think that was the first big win. And from there, things kind of went up. As a team, as a group of players, it was we went to another level playing after that, I thought.
Another level is a place where the great teams live. When straining muscles relax to run smoothly once again, and the mind connection happens between quarterback and receiver, player and coach, the man and the moment.
My defense hadn't been tackling well, and Coach Mont threw the ball to one of my fraternity brothers. His name was Ken Harris, and he was pretty quick, and he took off around in. And Coach Mont, without pads, you know, any protection at all, he just like wraps him up. I mean, like head across the numbers, wraps him up, takes him down. I mean, he sticks him, puts Ken Harris on his back on the field, and told us, you know, that we needed to start tackling people, you know, and get fired up and motivated. I mean, everyone just loved it. Everyone just howled because it was such an emotional, physical, reactionary type thing, which he didn't commonly do.
He got intense. He paced back and forth. He'd give me his look. You know, I mean, I kind of felt that I was carrying the weight of the whole team, but of course he looked at everybody that way. And that was part of the psyche that any good coach is going to get on a player. You know, your job is to do or die, not question why. You know, that's pretty much what Tom was. He paced back and forth, and just by osmosis or something, you started to gain that intensity.
It was this intensity which made Mont's Tigers stunning under pressure. When Mont's teams played the Monon-Bell rivalry game, they proved that mental giants could beat the little giants any year. In 1976, Mont retired as head coach, but with a career record of 12 wins, 5 losses, and 1 tie, Mont remains the greatest of Monon strategists.